Hello again. We've been doing interviews all day for our new book. So I'll show you the book. It's gorgeous in case you haven't seen it before, Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic. And we have 12 amazing authors who shared their stories in this book. I'm Corey Walmsley with Aurora Borealis Publishing, and I was the lucky publisher and coach who got to work on this book with these amazing authors. So welcome. I hope you're enjoying watching all the interviews today, and also welcome to Amanda Kunkel. She is our author of the hour. And we're going to be talking a little bit about her story and who she is and all these amazing things. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we get to be on here together today. It's not often we actually get to talk to each other anyway other than email. So I feel like everybody I'm seeing today, I'm like, oh, hey, haven't seen you in a while.
Right. Actually, we saw each other in October.
Oh gosh, was
The
that
last time that we yeah.
It's crazy. So I'm going to start out letting you talk a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh, thank you. Well, my name's Amanda Kunkel, like we said, and there are many names that I go by as far as what you call what I do. However, the official title that I came down with that explains the plethora of things that happen with me and my business is Universe Liaison. And that I just downloaded straight from the universe. And that actually has probably pinged a lot of questions already is, what do you mean by the universe? The universe is a all-loving, formless energy. And people often refer to the universe in different ways. God, goddess, oak tree, Buddha, whatever your heart is connected to, that's the universe for you. And I work directly with the universe and businesswomen to take these businesswomen to their multiple 6, 7, and now into multi-millions. Yes, happened last month, clients.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
And thank you for explaining that, because I know that sometimes when I mention what you do, people ask questions about it. So that's going to help me a little bit to be able to explain it better.
It is one of those umbrella things where I say most people know me for this, right? We take business women to their next desired income level, but how we do it, so what happens under there, so many different things. And the easiest term that I heard it called is a business psychic. But the deeper you go, for those of you that have worked with me, know we get into energetic realignment, key codes, DNA, soul trap, alternate realities, all of that wonderful stuff.
Yes, lots of stuff, but it all comes back to that one big goal, which is amazing. I love that your clients are able to hit the million level, the million and multi-million dollar mark. That is just phenomenal.
It is astounding because yes, I know when they come in, they're powerful women, they're very talented women, they're serious business women. And it's just watching their heart open more and open more and open more is what takes them to the next expansion. And it just blows me away. And I shouldn't necessarily be like, oh, wow, it blew me away. Again, it should be expected, but it's just so powerful each time that I'm like, oh, am I getting all teared up?
Yeah, I think crying is going to be a thing today. So. Awesome. Well, congratulations to you on that and on being an author in this book. Yeah, so awesome. So I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to join the Unleashing book and share your story?
Well, I think it was January 2022. You and I, and there was a bunch of other people there. I can't remember exactly what we were doing on Zoom, but I remember looking at you and it came out of my mouth. And when are you doing your collection, Corey? And you were like, what? Do you remember this?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yes. And then life happened and I forgot all about it, and was in England when I saw you start posting that you were looking for authors. And I was like, oh, I remember when the universe dropped that in. I remember saying, like, I would sign up for that right away. Why hasn't Corey messaged me? I think I like literally sent you that message. It was like, hello, should I be offended? See, that's how I am. I'm kind of a down to earth, normal person. And you were like, oh, no. You were like in the UK traveling. I didn't want to bother you.
Yeah.
So it was just, I just knew as soon as something comes through me like that, it's like there's a reason for it. Sometimes it's just for the receiver, but it was also like, no, Amanda, you're supposed to be a part of that too. Okay, sure, let's do it.
That's so interesting. And kind of off topic, but do you ever get a download, a message like that, and you're like, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the one thing that I've noticed, and this is to be some really good advice for anyone, is sometimes that no is like how lima beans taste in my mouth. Ugh, like I just don't like lima beans. They're just not for me. I love peas. Like peas taste amazing in my mouth. They're both green, right? They're both like small. When I go, oh, no, and I have this visceral reaction, same thing for my clients, that actually means that's exactly what you're supposed to do, because it's the thing that's taking you to the thing for your breakthrough, and you're just in so much resistance. And then I have to like tell myself that. And then I have to be like, well, I walk my walk. Guess I've got to lean in. So I have the same reaction. I just process it quicker.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I know for most people, our experience wouldn't be like, a universe download necessarily. It would be like someone else telling us, hey, this is what you're going to do. And we're very used to just being like, no, and not giving it that time to process and not going, oh, I understand what this no means. So that's one of the reasons I love talking to you, because you're always like, here's what's actually going on.
Right? Here's what we
Yeah.
see. Here's what's behind the scenes.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
So that was an unusual answer for, joining the Unleashing book. I don't think anyone else is going to have that one.
I just knew.
Yeah. Yeah, you just know. So can you tell us a little bit about the story that you chose to write?
Yes. And this is something I know you and I went back and forth on a lot, because there were very many pivotal moments in my early life that changed my trajectory. And I believe we settled on, well, what's the thing that like links to what I do today?
Right.
Right. And I was like, oh, well, that's like when I started my official training, when I got launched into having to sign all these non-disclosure agreements and being like put in front of all these like famous people and not really realizing how famous they were, was just like, oh yeah, whatever. That would be like where I can trace this all back to. In fact, I was just thinking about how when I very first got started, it was on tarot cards,
Okay.
like on the official training too. And that's how a lot of people begin exploring their psychic nature, is through tarot cards, oracle cards, something that you can, that's like tangible, that you can look at. And I was gifted those cards by Ryan and Elfie in December of like 2004, maybe 2005, maybe. And I still have them here. And I don't know about anyone else, but because I was in college during this whole time, those cards ended up on the floor of the bar all the time. Because I'd be like, oh, let me practice. Let me take my tarot cards out to the bar, because that was a really good idea. Spill beer and all sorts of Lord knows what was going on within that floor. And so that's like a very typical normal college experience, like being in a bar, especially at Penn State. Like it's a drinking college with a football problem, let's face it. And the rest of it was not so normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So trying to think how we want to share this one without giving the whole thing away. Because it is such an interesting story. Because I think, first of all, you don't get a lot of the, this is how I built my career as a psychic sort of stories. We don't get to hear that. And, this isn't a collection of stories that aren't the same. They're all different stories. So you're going to get a lot of people who have never been around psychics who will be able to read this story, and they'll be able to get that behind the scenes, which I think is really cool. I love the fact that this collection of stories is going to be able to open people up to, understanding all kinds of different stories, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. And
Go
I
ahead.
love how by presenting this, it actually touches on a little bit what I talk about in my story, where it was like, for me, and I know for a lot of my generation and the generations around me, we were always presented with like, you just go to college or go to like a 2-year like local community school, and then you get your degree. Some of you go into master's, PhD, but then you have your career, and like your career is what you do for the rest of your life, and you're always along those lines. And so when you run into those of us that at some point stepped off of that, like, yes, my BA is in psychology. Yes, I still use some of that, but like not in a psychological sense, but in like the social psychology of interacting with people. But that's it. And so most people don't get the behind the scenes for those of us that don't have that cookie cutter career. Like, how did it happen? How did you create something out of nothing? And so that's what I love about the fact that you put this together, is to help others see like, yeah, there are other possibilities, and you don't need to know the way right away.
So that brings up an important question.
Mhm.
You, with your skills, did you have some inkling of what the way was? Or were you just allowing things to happen and being open to having experiences that led you to your path?
Great question. So until I was about 20, 21, I had never thought of seriously developing my skills or doing anything career-wise with them. Like, yes, I loved the like TV shows where they were all like ghosty, or they were witches. Like, oh my gosh, Charmed and Buffy were like the biggest things I watched in high school. Like, we're
Right.
gonna really age myself here. And but I never was like, I want to do that growing up. And in fact, if you watch those shows, they had like regular paying jobs, right? It wasn't like being a witch or being a vampire hunter was like put you on a W-2 somewhere.
Right.
And I always knew I wanted to help people. If you look back to all the things I said when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be an architect, because really I just wanted to be an artist. And finally chose my major at psychology. And I knew I was a helper. And I really thought I was getting my PhD and like going to be doing private work or teaching at a college or something. Like, that was if I knew what affirmations, visualizations were back then, it would have been that.
Okay.
And so when this dropped in, when this like, oh, hey, you can help people in another way, and now you're surrounded by people that make careers out of it and get paid by it, I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. But not really, no. And then it was kind of like, well, wait, if they can do it, I can do it. And I was like, well, not really, no. And so what happened was I had little like fantasies at the time. Like when I was 21, 22, I was like, oh, would it be cool if I had my own TV show? That would be really cool. And then like, that was it though.
Yeah.
Right. Again, this is probably like a year before I was introduced to Abraham Hicks, visualization, dream boards, any of that sort of thing. And it's okay if you're listening to this and going, I have no idea what any of that is. That's all right. These are like the woo-woo ways of deciding what you want and making a path to it purposely. But I didn't know the purposeful part. So each thing sort of unraveled on its own. And after I graduated college, I didn't like any of the graduate schools I toured because positive psychology was not a thing back then. I think there was like 2 universities in like San Francisco or something that offered it, but they weren't seen as like legit psychology. So this could be another like book on its own. When I was visiting Gettysburg, which is where one of my mentors, not the one that was on television, lived, there was a woman that she knew that owned a metaphysical store, but also had a full-time job, and she wanted to sell her store. And I had been looking and looking and looking and looking for work when I graduated college and had done a few readings there just for fun. And she was like, I'll sell you the store for $1, because that's all it was sold to me for with everything in it. And then I had a panic attack for a couple hours, to be fair. And then I said yes, and literally just had to trust, and had a lot of people around me at that time, that everything would unfold as it was supposed to. And let me tell you, it was not all stars and chicken dust. Like, it was like some pretty getting thrown under the bus type things.
Mhm.
But I knew then and through it all that no matter where I went in life, whether I was doing it full-time or part-time, I was going to be helping people with their lives through my gifts. And I didn't care how it looked. I just knew that that's what I was supposed to do. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't know that story, did you?
No, I didn't. Yeah, that's
Yes, I can
become
see you now. You're like, Amanda, we're putting your book together, right? See the wheels in your head turning.
Oh yeah. No, and like that's part of the interesting thing about doing these interviews is we get to hear like sub stories and tangents, the stuff that we didn't put in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people have that gut feeling like I'm supposed to do something like this, but I don't know how it looks. So I love that you explained that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's like actually okay when it doesn't look how you want it to look in the everyday, because that just means it's unfolding even greater than you could imagine.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. My garage door has been opening and closing underneath my desk. So
All good. Good to know the
yeah,
garage doors work.
yeah. Normal day at my desk. Yeah, so and of course lost where I was. So when you were writing your story,
Mhm.
you just shared a bunch of sub stories, different pieces. When you were writing your story, what do you think was really challenging about it?
Well, as I make loud noises, the first part was putting all of the ideas together in a logical way. And I believe that was one of the first drafts I sent you was like, so tell me if I need to rearrange things. I know I sent a more succinct, like I didn't do a lot of explaining. I was like, well, let me just put some of the like bullet points, because for those of you that don't know, I'm dyslexic and struggled with it for years. So try being dyslexic and I do whole concept backwards and then trying to describe something that I went through that wasn't tangible, that's woo-woo, that knows people are like, I don't know what you're talking about, in a way that like actually makes it, yeah, now everyone's going to want to read the chapter. I said, okay, bullet points. And that's when I sent it to you and was like, where do I need to rearrange these? And what do I need to extrapolate on? Like, do I need to cut a few things out? What do you want to hear about? Because I could have gone on a whole bunch of side tangents on each one of those paragraphs, but I was like, let's reel it in, Amanda. We have a word limit here.
Yeah, yeah. I think honestly, the way you handled it was the best way to handle something like that. And I think a lot of people do get confused because our story is way out here and we need to bring it all the way in here and only share certain snippets of it. So doing that outline, that was the best thing you could have done. Just saying, this is what I'm thinking. Tell me where I need to add, tell me where I need to subtract. So I think that was, definitely the best way to handle that challenge. And that's, when I'm walking people through the book writing process, we always start with an outline. We don't start with, let's write the first chapter. It's where are we going? Where have we been? Make sure that everything is lined up. Yeah. So what did you particularly enjoy writing about?
The memory. That was a particular part of my life, mostly because of all the NDAs, not just with the women from the television, but like then the Catholic Church work, and then that group that turned into a television show. I kind of shut the door on that for years because I couldn't really talk about it publicly. And it all just, everything happened so fast. You know how when you like hindsight, the further it goes and the more you mature into who you are as a person and an adult, it's easier to look at the pieces. I just like shut that door. And it was only in the past couple years that I started opening that door. One, because of some of those NDAs that I had to sign, a bunch of people ended up like the reasons we had to like not talk about it, like they wrote their own books and then like there's going to be a TV show made about that. And I was like, well, I can talk about it then.
Right.
So I just won't link the names up and we'll be fine. So I probably was a little bit more cautious about talking about it as well, because having come from the psychology background and the whole, like, you don't share people's stories. You don't share what happens in session. Like that is private. It was bound into our head. So I had a little double whammy there. So it was great to think back on those days with the nostalgia, with the like, okay, how did I really feel about, how did I really actually like, gosh, I was so young too. Like we think of 20-year-olds now, right? And we go, oh man, when I was 20, I had so much more responsibility, like that sort of thing. But still looking back, I was like, yeah, it was still really young. Like I was being asked to make some big decisions in some big dangerous work. And the universe is what protected me and protected us. So I had some big ahas looking back like that. So that was my favorite part.
That's really cool. A couple people have mentioned that that was something they really enjoyed too, was being able to look back and say, oh wow, I was talking to, I think it was Priscilla, and she was talking about like all of the things that she had achieved. And did you have that kind of feeling like, wow, look at what I achieved when I was 20? Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really made me like value that time a little bit better. It went by so fast. And now I'm like, oh, I can kind of dwell and play in that in like a fun little way and remember it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yay. So, oh my goodness, we've been talking.
It's
So
you and me, Corey. Come on.
we're talking. Yeah, I was gonna say, we should probably kind of wrap this up and let people know where they can find the book and all that stuff. So what I want to ask you to wrap up was, because you have such a unique career path, and now you have this experience of writing about it, what would you tell someone else who may be kind of, thinking about like, okay, I have this really unique career and I'm not sure how to share it. I'm not sure I feel comfortable sharing it. What would you tell them?
That they absolutely need to share it because, and this can be a little selfish, other people who have no idea that that's possible, and yet it is possible within them, need to be able to see somebody else did it. Somebody else did it with the ups and downs, but like they're okay. They made it. They're doing great. Well, that means it's possible for me too. But it's
Yeah.
not really talked about. We need more people diving into their own unique path, weaving their own way in the world. I always say, there's in business, you could get like what would be considered your undergraduate degree in learning social media, learning advertising, that sort of thing. But after that, it's all you braiding together like a braid in a hair, the different strands of your unique self, your unique gifts, your unique way to make it work. There is no PhD program out there in that, like, well, just learn social media, just learn hiring a copywriter, just like, nope. Other people need to hear you to go, oh, you know what? There doesn't need to be an ABC. If she can do it, I can find my way too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing more stories today. That was wonderful. I got to hear extra things. Yeah, so I'm gonna share a book again, Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic. It is available today. And we have a special going on today at 99 cents for the ebook copy on Amazon only today. So make sure you grab your copy today. It benefits the authors because you're sending us love. Well, you're sending them love and me inadvertently. Um,
And it's a really like flowing read. I know people that have read it in just a couple days.
yeah.
So
Yeah. One of the things I like about this type of book is you can be like, I only have a short amount of time. I'm going to sit down and read one story. So you just sit down, read one story and go, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And then come back later and read another story. And it does, it flows so well. These are such beautiful, beautifully written stories. So make sure you grab a copy of it, support the author, support Young Adult Survivors United, and help us hit bestseller today. And Amanda, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
good to see you again.
Yeah, and can you tell everybody where they can find you?
My name, Amanda Kunkel, and it is spelled on the screen here, and Corey did spell it correctly on the Facebook post. I will be sharing this post. I'm most active on Facebook, but if you get lost out there in the internet, it's just amandakunkel.com, and my email's right on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. And if anyone has comments, questions, anything, make sure you put them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. And have a wonderful day.